Cheetah and Cheshire robbed the Justice League, issue 6. Greg Rucka writing with NICOLA SCOTT on the art. So yeah, this wraps everything up, and what the real end goal of it was. They never wanted the power bank all along. That was just the distraction, because you see, they knew that the spell to transport them could be traced by other magic users, particularly Zatanna in this case. So the Justice League show up, but when the Justice League get there, obviously this team of villains led by Black Adam are the ones that are trying to take the power bank. So the Justice League are so busy with them, and because several of his members are magic users, basically the whole goal here was like, no, there's going to be so much magic getting fired from various people at that battlegrounds, they'll never be able to lock on to which magic took them away from there. So this was actually always their escape plan, was to confuse the Justice League by making sure they were focused on these other characters.
They're escaping under the cover of chaos.
Yes. So Clarion didn't betray them.
And this is how you do... Yeah. I was like, this is how you do double and triple turns. Right? This is how we stay invested. Because I was like, oh, Clarion, you little jerk. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, we sent him there. Like, we sent Clarion to broker a deal with Black Adam, because it's part of the plan. And because I trust Greg Rucka as a writer, right? I'm just like, okay, let's see where this goes. It ultimately went to one of the most satisfying endings that I think I've gotten in a very long time.
I mean, it's not even about trust, because like it doesn't like it doesn't work the same ways. The story element we didn't think worked in Batgirl isn't the same here for multiple reasons. I don't think it's just about a trust thing with the writer, because for one, like the type of story this is a heist where all the characters have been really well determined. Like, compare this to this Batgirl arc that we were just critiquing a bit, is that this, but it's not like all the characters are super big characters that we're all super familiar with. No, we've got Hazard, and we've got Alea, who's this super strength girl that's new pretty much, like
featherweight,
featherweight, yeah. So we've got all these characters who are kind of like either new or C tier or whatever, and they're still so well established by the time we get to the heist. And because it is a heist story where part of the plan isn't revealed to us, it's kind of naturally built in to have some turns and like, oh, this was really the plan all along type moments. It feels more natural here in a lot of ways. Anyway, so once they're away from everything though, and it's like, oh, because Featherweight's pissed at Clarion at first until they realize this was always part of the plan. They basically say, okay, we don't have the power bank, and everyone else is bummed out because they thought that was the point of the whole heist. But they're like, hey, no, we actually set up something when we were there. Clarion set up a spell to basically get everything else in the trophy room. So they walk into the room where they're staying, and there's just like a big pile of all this stuff, like all these superhero weapons and artifacts and just everything that you could think of that would be there. So they all just kind of take
a container of Starros.
And they don't even say, oh, we'll sell it all and split the money. They basically just say, hey, everyone help yourself, but let's be fair. Let's make sure there's enough for everyone, and just to take the stuff you want. And it's all just very kind of pleasant. And they all say their goodbyes, and they're all going to different places. The little payoff to the potential romance with Clarion's crush on Featherweight is Featherweight's like, hey, I'm a bit old for you. But she kisses him on the cheek and says, maybe in a few years, come and speak to me and we'll talk. But yeah,
I forgot she's supposed to be like 25, or she's in her 20s, and just because the way that they draw her, she makes her seem a lot younger. So when she was like, oh, I'm a bit older for you, and I was like, wait, she is? So then I had to go do some research, and I was like, oh yeah, early on when we get introduced, they bring that up. So I was like, oh, that's a nice way to bring it back around.
Yeah, so that's kind of the payoff to that, and like others say, the goodbyes and whatever. But then we find out that this loot itself wasn't even the real reason for this heist. The real reason for this heist ties back into what a lot of the first issue was about. Because if you remember, the first issue was largely focusing on Cheetah's pain and her like hunger that comes from Urska Targa and all that stuff. And it turns out what they really wanted was the whatever the item is that will let them summon him. So Cheetah can try and kill him. And that's actually what the end of the story is that, he shows up, he's pissed that he's been summoned by her, and calls her a bunch of nasty things, and she goes to town to try and kill him. She does, and the end of the story, which it says the end, or, a new beginning, potentially, is Barbara Ann looks human again, although with a couple of little cheetah spots just on her legs or whatever. And I was thinking, I wonder if she's gained the ability to just like turn between like cheetah form and human form. Is that what she's achieved here, aside from just being free of his whims that obviously he does just to torture her?
Yeah, which I do like, because that follows a line of when RUCKA set up her origin in Wonder Woman #8, right? The often referenced issue. And so to see this come full circle, and the whole reason for the heist was to get this item so she can summon him and kill him and be free of it. And she finally gets to be her own woman, and she's not tied to this curse of Urskatega that RUCKA, started all those years ago, man. We're talking about the beginning of Rebirth. When we started the show, so to see her win and transformed, she's still Cheetah, right? She still has some spots, and they tease a new beginning. Like, again, so I talk about one of the most fulfilling endings. Like, I was like, oh man, RUCKA did it, So yeah, it left me with a big stupid smile on my face.
Yeah, no, it does feel like he's closing off a little bit of something that he set up a while ago. But, he was playing with so many characters here that I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of these characters again, down the line. Who knows where we're going with some of this stuff, but yeah.
The other big moment I love is where Question puts it together, right? We do that as they're explaining how they got out, and Question's on the satellite and sees the thing that they've done. They drew the circle, but then they go into the trophy room, and she gets in there and she just has, the expletive as she sees it. And I was like, oh, that's another well done moment.
No, that's good. It's revealing all this stuff, and then you get that wide panel of all their faces smiling, like all the characters who didn't know what the plan was, and just their reaction to all the loot. They're like, okay, there you go. That explains that stuff. So no, it's it's a very pleasant conclusion, and it's like there's almost not a whole lot to say about it in a lot of ways, just because it, like, other than the final little reveals of what was going on, because several pages are taken up by action at the start when the Justice League show up, and that's like fun and it looks great because NICOLA SCOTT's art's fantastic, and then you've got all the payoff stuff. But because like they did such a good job setting up all these characters, there's not actually that much time for like wild new plot directions. It's mostly, here's what we actually achieved, and like the other characters finding that out. But it's all fun to hear, and I actually like how it does tie back in, because I think issue 1 of this probably was my favorite issue, which is not a knock on the rest, but I thought like just focusing on Cheetah's struggle was such a good like focus, that because obviously once we left that behind because we were doing all the heist stuff, we weren't like, that wasn't this thing that was in the foreground. So I really like that we came back around to that at the end, which makes a lot of sense to like go back around to that, and that's why we spent so much time doing that in issue 1, because that's what the story was always really about, was saving Cheetah from Uzkataga. So yeah, good stuff.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and just the whole double turn here where they needed a patsy, and that patsy was Black Adam. So, and they end up drawing a fight between Black Adam and the Justice League so they can get clear. And I loved all that, because there was this ominous threat of Black Adam throughout, right? When we get revealed with Clarion, I think that was like issue 2 or 3, of Clarion with them, and I know it was all part of the plan. And I just, I love a good heist movie that once things are revealed and you look at it in a different context throughout, and it gives you a completely different story from what we had just seen. So this managed to do all of those. And then, like you said, the reactions play a heavy role in this one. And NICOLA SCOTT does some wonders. Like, again, the question one, the one with all the faces that you mentioned of them seeing the loot. And then, Barbara Ann at the end, her in that, and you just kind of get a side profile, but you can see the contentment on her face, that she achieved what she needed to.
And I wonder, does this new, like, improved Barbara Ann, do we actually get her meeting Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman at any point in the near future? Is that something we'll do? Is King kind of like, is they're him and RUCKA in cahoots? Is this setting something up for later? I mean, I don't know if it is, but it would be cool if it does.
Yeah. But I would love to see how this reformed Barbara Ann fits in with what the story that Tom King's telling over there too. Yeah. Because this is a different Cheetah than even the one that we saw help her, in those issues. So, but yeah, just Greg RUCKA stays winning when it comes to Cheetah. I should not be surprised, right? Yeah.
yeah, so no, really satisfying conclusion. And brought everything together. So really no complaints, honestly. Yeah, all right. I mean, I guess if I had maybe a critique, and it's just a minor one, is maybe just like she defeats Urzker Targa quite easily, relatively, because it's like 2 pages. But you know, they have to fit it in right at the end, so I get why they didn't want to like you know, make it this big epic fight where she has to struggle really hard to eventually do it. It's a bit more you know, empowering that she's able to just beat the shit out of him like as quickly as she can.
Yeah, it's almost like this was her entire goal, and she's not going to be stopped, and she's going to do it, and she does it real quick. You know, and I'm glad that she does it by herself as well, because I love the camaraderie throughout with Cheshire and her and Shoes, but the fact that she does it on her own too, I think that really drives home, you know, that ending. So
yeah. All right, what are you giving Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League issue 6?
I'm gonna give this a 9.
Damn. I am going 8.5.